Machines actually use some of the same technology that we use for humans in terms of IAM, especially OAuth for authentication and authorization.
So Felix, Meryl, what's different about machine identities and human identities? What about them, about managing them is different?
Okay, well, when people ask about human versus machine identity, I always start with a reality check, right? Because non-human isn't really just workload devices. So the scope is really much bigger than people think. Now, when we talk about humans versus machines, let's first we briefly talk about the similarities. Machines actually use some of the same technology that we use for humans in terms of IAM, especially OAuth for authentication and authorization. But now here's where it gets really interesting because the differences between handling humans and machines are really game changing. First of all, machines don't necessarily need accounts. Now let that sink in for a few seconds. Right? Think about it. When a container spins up, we create a new identity with it. The container terminates, the identity vanishes. Poof. No orphaned accounts cluttering your directory. And second, forget multi-factor authentication for machines because they can't use MFA, right? So how do you secure them? Simple. Don't store credentials at all. Generate ephemeral one-time credentials on the fly when the machine starts up. And here is where it gets messy. Most organizations are doing this completely wrong, I think. They're treating machines like humans. They create accounts, assign an owner, store credentials in a vault, do quarterly attestations, and eventually decommission these accounts. That's backwards. The right way, in my opinion, is embed identity in the workload lifecycle itself. Workload starts, identity appears. Workload stops, poof, identity disappears. Automatic, clean, right? Stop assigning individual owners to workload identities. So why would you do that? Assign ownerships to applications, that makes much more sense. If you assign ownership to applications instead and make those owners groups, not individuals, even if it's a person, make it a group of one, that's not just cleaner. I think it's the only way it scales.